welcome to our next episode of the Hormone Café. Today, we're going to talk about nutrition, specifically around fertility. This is especially going to be important if you're trying to conceive, you want to optimize your fertility, and especially even if you just want to optimize your hormones in preparation for hormone balance and future fertility. I'm very excited to have with me Callie. She is our dietitian here at Vera Health and Fertility, and she specializes in women's health, and she specializes in a lot of the nitty-gritty details, things like what exactly should you be eating, how do you go to the grocery store. So it's super helpful to have a dietitian on board as part of your fertility journey. Things that we wanted to talk about today are, this is basically kind of like 5 things that I want you to think about when you're thinking about eating for fertility, because here at Vera Health and Fertility, everything we do starts with nutrition. Nutrition is the core of what we do. We always start with food first. And then if we need to add on anything else, you want to have it on a solid base of a really great diet day in and day out. So things that we wanted to go over are go-to foods to optimize your fertility, what your plate should look like, some daily habits that you just want to be incorporating every single day, grocery store tips and brands, and then foods that you want to avoid if you're trying to conceive. So what are some of the go-to foods if you're trying to get pregnant, if you want to improve your egg quality, implantation, blood flow? What do you tell people to really look for or recommend?
Yeah, so protein first. And so when we're looking at protein, we want to look at things like your eggs, your poultry, grass-fed, meat or beef, yogurt, if you can tolerate dairy, like a Greek yogurt, very little to no sugar. Wild-caught salmon can be another really important one. Healthy fats are another huge component of optimizing your fertility as well as your hormones. So when we look at what is actually a healthy fat, we're looking at things like avocados, avocado oil, olive oil, nuts, seeds, olives, avocados, if I didn't say that one already. Those are all really important. And then we want to look at slow carbs. So carbs that don't raise your blood sugars quickly. So things that have a lot of high fiber in them. So things like your quinoa, your wild rice, your brown rice. Fertility-specific friendly foods can be like your berries, anti-inflammatory foods. So things like your berries, your cruciferous veggies, like your Brussels sprouts and your broccoli. Those healthy fats really come into as your anti-inflammatory support system as well. And then key nutrients like choline that comes from eggs, omega-3, which comes from that wild caught salmon, iron, which you can get a lot of that from beef and spinach, and some from your lentils or beans. So it's really about, as you can hear, balancing. But those are some of the more specifics when we're talking about how do we optimize those hormones for optimal fertility.
Love it. Any omega-3 tips if you don't like fish? Some people are like, Dr. P, I'm never going to eat fish.
Yeah, that's a great question. So there are some omegas in our nuts and some in our seeds, like chia seed, flaxseed, walnuts. So those are a great addition. Unfortunately, to really maximize the amount that we need, you would probably need to talk to one of your practitioners about maybe adding an omega-3 supplement if you're absolutely like no fish at all. But you can add those in to get some of those benefits for sure.
Love that. Yeah. Is there any specific proteins to focus on? For example, do we need to have grass-fed beef or any types of like meat, chicken?
Yeah, that's a great question.
And wild caught.
Yep, that's a great question. So we do want to focus as much as possible when we're trying to really optimize those hormones and talking about fertility is eating quality. So as much as possible, when you can find things that are animals that are living on, land that they can move on. So that would be where it's like pasture raised, grass fed, wild caught. So they're not kept in and just being fed slough. They're able to move and roam in their environment to actually be able to get a lot of those nutrients. So do your best A lot of times even local can have some really good options as well, especially if you either know a local farmer or you're buying from a local farmer. Those can be some great options as well, but really kind of focusing on those main words.
Oh, that's very helpful. Sometimes you go to the grocery store and is all chicken the same? Yeah. And then what should your plate look like when you're thinking about, okay, breakfast, lunch, dinner, planning ahead?
Yeah. So as much as possible, I always want you to build, I kind of look at, okay, this is our plate. Let's fill half of it with our veggies, a quarter with our protein, the other quarter with those slow absorbed carbs or those slow breakdown of those carbs. And then I don't want you to forget about those healthy fats. So always having 1 or 2 servings. So I look at it as 1 or 2 tablespoons or like a half an avocado of those healthy fats, because that will really help optimize those hormones and also keep you staying satisfied and not have the cravings and all those things.
Which is huge because fat is the precursor to hormones. So love that. It makes so much sense. What about daily habits? When we think about in and out of our day, what are kind of the essentials to support our fertility?
So the first thing I want to mention is definitely focusing on making sure that your timing of your meals. So trying to get something in every 3 to 4 hours is ideal, because that will help balance your blood sugars, which will therefore go on to help balance your hormones. We never want to go too long without eating, because then we crash and then it throws our cortisol up, which is that stress hormone. Then it throws the blood sugars wild. And then therefore, when we're doing that day in and day out, all of a sudden our hormones are going wackadoodle. So ideally, if you can eat somewhere every around 3 to 4 hours, some people can go a little bit longer and don't need snacks. And that's really like individualized. But most of the time, as a general rule, I suggest something every 3 to 4 hours. Starting your day, you guys, with starting your day with at least 20 to 30 grams of protein. Again, I cannot say enough about protein. It is so important, because your body, after you rest, is coming off of that all-night fast, and you need that protein on board to help stabilize those blood sugars and those hormones right away. Because if you skip breakfast, like some of my patients, or you're not getting any protein and you're just getting a really high carb breakfast, basically it's kind of wreaking havoc on your hormones all day long. So if that is one thing where you're like, okay, I don't know if I can change anything else, it would be at least getting in 20 to 30 grams of protein at breakfast, and ideally breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But if you need to start with one meal, ideally that would be breakfast to kickstart you for sure. And then pairing your protein with your carbohydrate. So never, ever eating a bare carbohydrate. So if you're going to go, sometimes my clients will say, oh, an apple, it's so great. It has high fiber, there's minerals, there's nutrients. Great, you are exactly right. But what happens is when you eat that apple by itself, you start to send those blood sugars on that roller coaster ride. And as soon as you start to do that, all those hormones start going haywire. So when you have that protein on board, whether it's, if you handle dairy, whether it's a piece of cheese, some plain Greek yogurt, a beef stick, etc., a handful of nuts, those can all be great addition to your carbohydrate to make sure that you're balancing that out. So please do not go with that carbohydrate with a bare carbohydrate. Always pair that with a protein. Hydrating consistently. That is another big piece of just being consistently hydrated, trying to get in at least 64 ounces as a bare minimum every single day, and just being consistent with that. That really gets digestion moving. I mean, it helps filter the liver. Like, there's so many benefits of water that can help balance our hormones as well. Gentle movement. I think it's so important just to be a reminder. Yes, it's great if you already have a very structured workout routine, but even just remembering gentle movement. So walking, some yoga, some Pilates, getting up and moving out of your chair if you've been sitting for an hour, sitting long. Because what that does is, going back to kind of our main hormone, is that stress hormone and those blood sugars. When we keep those regulated, it's really going to help optimize the rest of our hormones and really help optimize fertility in the long run. stress and sleep support. So making sure that you are getting enough quality sleep. And that's going to look a little bit different for everybody. How much does your body need? Yes, we typically say 7 to 8 hours, but it's all in about quality. Sometimes we focus so much on the number, but it's not quality sleep. We're waking up in the middle of the night. We're not able to go to sleep. So really focusing on that quality sleep is going to help maximize those hormones and supporting your body well for fertility.
And then this is something I also get asked all the time.
Yeah.
What if I'm not a breakfast person?
Yes.
I don't eat breakfast. I'm not hungry when I wake up. How do I get my protein? And do I have to eat breakfast?
Yeah. So it's kind of a non-negotiable. And what will happen over time is that your body will get used to, once you start fueling it correctly, it's amazing how that changes. I see this all the time in pretty much every patient that comes to me that has not eaten breakfast. They'll be like, I just absolutely can't do it. So we start very small. It might be, 1 egg and a small clementine. And they're like, that's all I can tolerate right now. Okay, fine. We at least have something on board. And metabolically speaking, in about, a month or so, when you start consistently eating that meal, hormones change, blood sugar changes, and you will notice the difference, and all of a sudden your body will start to really feel the difference. So,
And you make your most cortisol within 1 hour of waking up. So that's when you want to nourish your body. So if you aren't hungry, it's such a good point. You want to train your body to have the right signals at the right times.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. If you're not eating breakfast, you will be after this. I love it. Okay, walk me through the grocery store. So, when we think about, if you're kind of overwhelmed, if you're like, oh my gosh, what should I buy? What are the kind of go-tos?
Yeah. So I first like to say, when you're at the grocery store, try to stay on the outskirts as much as possible, because that's really where we're going to get the word that we kind of use, those whole foods. There's not a lot of ingredients. You get your broccoli and it's your broccoli. You get your grass-fed beef and it's your grass-fed beef. So as much as possible, really try to stay on, do most of your shopping on that outskirts to really get, honestly, the most nutrient-rich foods that you can to help balance hormones and really promote fertility. Some of the go-to brands, like I said, I really try to focus on, because obviously, as we know, brands change. Sometimes all of a sudden you go to the store and that one brand, you're like, oh, now it's $10 for these eggs. I don't really want to pay that. So generally speaking, trying to look for local. If you can shop organic, great. But it's not necessarily, if people are like, I just can't, that's not fit in the budget, let's be realistic and just support you well. And let's try to find more local foods where we know that they're trying his best to keep away from those pesticides. Again, going back to try to find wild caught fish, trying to find pasture-raised eggs and chicken and turkey, trying to find that grass-fed beef. But most, getting at least 80% of your foods from that outskirts. We all know sometimes those crackers slip in or something like that. And it doesn't mean you can't enjoy your food. We don't want to sit here and say you can never have this again, but it's just more about balancing it out. And when you start looking in the inner of the grocery store, you just really want to pick up that label and read. I can't say this enough, because it's amazing when you go and it's like, oh, whole grain, and you think you're getting all this great stuff, and then you flip it over and it doesn't have one whole grain in there. You're like, wait a minute, all this is like white flour and oils. So simple the better. If you can go, simplest ingredients, less than 6 to 8 ingredients, that'll really help kind of cut down on all the confusion. But I have to tell you, actually have to flip that label over to actually look at what the nutrients are on that food label and then start breaking it down. So for example, if you have a beef stick, and you're like, okay, all it is this pure beef stick, but I'd like some crackers to go with it. Okay. The next step would be to say, okay, let's look at those crackers and actually look at how much fiber they have in them. Do they have a bunch of seed oils like soybean oil and canola oil that cause more inflammation? So I think the biggest thing is kind of being your own nutrition detective, but we're also here to support that as well. And in my sessions all the time, I would say we spend a lot of time going through the foods you eat and really breaking that down for you. So, we talk about general foods, and then a lot of times my patients will say, Callie, what about this food? And we'll actually pull it up and say, okay, this is what's in it. these are the things that are really quality, and maybe these are the things that aren't quality, but maybe here's a change that would still get you to where you want to be and you would still like it okay.
I love that. It's so true. Because sometimes you just think, oh, I just love chips. Like, I need something salty.
Totally.
And then it's something you can never have chips. Yeah. We just want to find a great, amazing brand and not a brand full of seed oil. Yeah. It's not like you can never have something. You just want to always make sure you're substituting it with something a little bit better.
Yeah, as much as possible. 100%. Yeah.
And then is there any no-no foods that you just shouldn't eat?
Yeah. So I always like to balance it out. If 80% of the time you're doing what your body needs, you do have that flexibility that it's not an all or nothing thing. So I do want to say that because I feel like as a dietitian, people are always like, okay, Callie, tell me everything I can eat. I really like to focus.
We're like a joke in the office, and if we're eating something bad, we're like, don't tell Callie.
But I really like to focus more on what you can eat. So you do want to stay away from high process like we just kind of talked about. So a lot of fast food, we don't know what's going in it. There may be some healthier options for sure. But a lot of the fast food, we just honestly don't know what's in there. So it can cause a lot of inflammation, the gut, etc. Really limiting those seed oils like we talked about, because oil's in everything. It really is. So if you buy a box, guarantee there's an oil in it. Now, if you're having it occasionally, it's not going to make or break you. But if you're eating that regularly, it really is. So like, for example, I'm going to throw out one brand. Sieta is great because they've really tried to switch to all of the avocado oil, which is a healthier oil. Now, I'm not saying go eat a whole pack of chips, but it can be a better option. So looking for less ingredients, different oils, 100%. Being careful on what sugar is another thing that's so challenging because, of course, our taste buds really like sugar. So there is a lot of pretty much any box item, again, has sugar in it. So it's really paying attention to what source are they getting this from? Are they getting it from high fructose corn syrup? Are they getting it from, and I think now that our world has kind of switched, we're doing a lot of sugar-free things and really honestly trying to stay away from those as much as possible too. So erythritol, any of your tols like TOLs, are really important to say. Those just cause a lot of inflammation. Our body does not break them down. And kind of on a little bit of a side tangent, but when you're eating those artificial sugars, it actually makes your body crave more sugar than just having a maple syrup or a piece of, I usually like to go with like, let's have a piece of fruit. But if you are buying a box item, you know, looking for maybe like a coconut sugar, a maple syrup, a honey, something that's more natural. Yes, it's still a process and it's not going to be, great for you to be eating that all the time, but it's so much better than those artificial sugars, which a lot of times just make you crave.
For sure.
And then I think with fish, because we talk about fertility and omegas, and that's fish is usually one of the first things that comes to people's mind, is just being careful about what type of fish. So just making sure that you're not doing any of those large, like swordfish, sticking with wild caught salmon or canned light tuna would be a good option. But just making sure you're paying attention to those mercury contents. And that's something I can definitely help you navigate to kind of come up with a list of like, okay, these foods are lower mercury and these are fishes that I like, etc.
I love that. That's super helpful. Yeah, sometimes you think, oh, is all fish created equal? Yeah. And when we think of fertility, sometimes we think of a Mediterranean diet, which is definitely fish, white meat, veggie. But if we obviously want to have good high quality fish, and if we don't love fish, try to find other sources of omega-3s. So definitely able to personalize it to you. If you're trying to get pregnant, if you're trying to balance your hormones and you want that specific guidance that Callie was talking about, we can help you so much. Look at labels, plan your food, plan menus for you. Please don't hesitate to reach out. We would love to see you. Thank you so much for this wonderful conversation. In summary, today we talked about go-to food to optimize our fertility, what your plate should look like, some daily habits that you just want to incorporate every day, and then grocery store tips, and then just foods that we want to stay away from. So our seed oils, our sugars, anything that's artificial, sugar most especially. And then if you have questions, please reach out to us, verafertility.com. And we are so excited for you to join us on the next episode of the Hormone Café.